Boa noite a todos, bem-vindos à nossa Mostra 11, virtual este ano. Estamos muito felizes de ter conosco hoje o diretor do filme Menino 23, Infâncias Perdidas no Brasil, Belisario Franca, e a Mariana Santos, que vai fazer a mediação hoje para nós, da nossa conversa aqui. Eu queria falar um pouquinho sobre o Belisário, para que vocês possam conhecer um pouco o nosso diretor aqui.
Mariana, maybe you should switch to English.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did that the other day again. It is very hard to think in one language sometimes and say it in another language. I'm going to start all over again. Good evening to everyone, and I'm going to introduce our director for tonight's discussion, Belisario Franca. Belisario Franca is a director, screenwriter, and a founding partner of the production company Giros Filmes in Brazil, which investigates histories and universes, revealing the diverse cultural facets. The trajectory of hundreds of characters, real and fictional, became award-winning series and films. Franca aims to recover Brazilian stories and characters living on the margins of national historiography, along with just the same as Boy 23, Forgotten Boys of Brazil. I would like to also introduce Mariana, who is our mediator for tonight. Mariana, there is a couple of things that I forgot. Menino 23 won the best documentary in the Brazilian Cinema Grand Prize by the jury and popular vote in 2017. It also received the best documentary at the Montreal International Black Film Festival, best script and edition at the 26th Cine Ceará, and best script and image edition at the Festival Arquivo and Poster of 2017. It was given the Silver Daisy Award in 2017 as best feature film, and it has been shown in international festivals in Europe, Africa, and North America. It is an incredible, and you are going, if you have seen the film, you know the scope of this film. I also would like to introduce Mariana Santos. Mariana worked for almost 10 years in Brasilia, which is her hometown, as a reporter and editor for several media outlets. Before moving to the United States in 2015, she lived in Germany and earned an MA or a master's degree in international media studies. In Germany, she worked as a reporter and editor for media company Deutsche Welle. And currently she works in public relations. Mariana has been on our MOSTRA Curatorial committee also for the past 4 years. So we have here our two panelists that are going to discuss the film.
All right.
Mariana, it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who has joined us tonight, this evening, or late afternoon for those who are on the West Coast. And thank you so much, Belisario. We are very happy and honored to have you here tonight. And thank you for bringing this movie to us. We were just talking before earlier today and saying how moved we were watching this movie and how much this powerful story made us cry a couple of times when we watched it. And it's hard to think that it's not a fiction, it's a documentary. It's actually a story that really happened. So yeah, all that said, thank you everyone. While we wait for the questions to come in, by the way, if you have any questions, any comment, please type in the chat box, and we are gonna be happy to discuss them here. So I'd like to kick off this discussion just asking Belisario. I was always thinking, like, when I finished the movie, how what a jam you had, like when you first learned about this story. As a filmmaker, I can imagine that you're always looking for uh, good stories and interesting things to tell. And this is an amazing story. So I was curious, how did this connection happen between Professor Sidney, is it actually a doctor, and you? How did you find out this story?
Well, thank you very much for having me here. It's such an honor to have my film in this festival. And okay, let me explain from the beginning. Well, Giros Films is a production company in Rio. We used to work for several different channels. One of those channels that we work with is History Channel. It was like almost 10 years ago, we are producing a documentary series for History Channel called uh, History Detectives. It's about detectives that follow some piece of materials like a book or a plate and try to discover or to discover if it's related for an historical fact or historical something that happened in Brazilian history. One of our research at that time discovered that Sydney in Campinas, it's São Paulo, during one of those class that he has, he found this brick with the swastika, and that was like it's a news in this small town, Campinas, and then this research showed me the material. Oh, look, and then I thought, this is interesting. Let's talk with this professor. And then Sydney, very very generous, come to Rio, and then we spent like one day talking about what he's doing, because at that time he started his thesis, his PhD thesis, and it was amazing because in the same moment I understand that the story that we have there is much more than for a TV series. It could be a feature film because there is a lot of layers. It connects with the Brazilian history and some parts of Brazil that is very serious issues like this, the racism, all these political position of the Brazilian elite at that time during the 30s, and because Sydney at that time has discovered Aloysio, the boy 23. And then the first thing that I told to Sydney is, Sydney, how old is Aloysio? 89. So
No
we
time
don't,
to lose here.
yeah, we don't have time to lose because we don't have money, we don't know what film we're gonna do, but we know that we have to film Aloysio. And then like 2 weeks later, we went to Campinas and start the shooting. At that time, we don't know what kind of film we will produce, what kind of film, what will be the script, what will be the way we're gonna show. Well, I understood at that time that it's mandatory to film Aloysio. and we did it like 3 or 4 times before we understand or begin to understand what kind of film we want to do.
That's interesting. So you had this story before you had the script.
Yes.
It's unusual, I guess, right?
Not in documentary.
Yeah.
In documentary, sometimes we have the research, and then in this case, Sidney did because the thesis of his PhD is very profound, it's very detailed, it's very with a lot of layers. So we have the research, but we have the character. We have Aloysio, and he has 89. So we must film it, and then we did it, and and then we like it. Wow, it was like 4 years of production before this beginning. So we have the time to to understand and to work with more calm and reflection. What kind of film we want to produce?
Was he initially very much receptive to be filmed? Because in the movie, you guys kind of show that he was not really comfortable. And Sydney even mentions that it took some time, also because you guys didn't want to like deeper these trauma that he already had, like to make it worse for him. He was a no guy.
Yeah, you can understand everything that he has lived in this farm in his childhood. Is It's tough. It wasn't easy, and it's interesting because in the film you have the three characters, two lives, Aloysio, Argemiro, and also number two. They are completely different. They have similar experience, but they felt differently. Aloysio, I believe, he's the bitter one. He has a lot of hate in his heart. He didn't, of course, it wasn't easy. He has a lot of hate in his heart. But I believe, knowing him during all these 4 years that the shooting process that we have, that I believe that the way that he deal with the experience, all this hate and all this, he's not he's not okay with this. That makes him live and have the strength to move on.
The best revenge would be to survive all this.
Yeah.
Probably, and to have a family, to have sons, grandchildren. So he has a big family, so a lot of people. So, and he has the courage, and that's something that I have to thank him on every time, because he have the courage to tell the story, to told us the story. So think about him, the way he was feeling when he's starting to talk again about his story in his childhood. It's not an easy way, and I can tell you, I believe it was the third time that I was there with Aloysio. I, During one of our conversation, I asked him, Aloysio, do you want to come back to Rio, to the orphanage once again in your life? And then, yes. And that, I believe, it's a key in our relationship, that things change, because when he went to Rio de Janeiro, went to the orphanage, walk on this stair, going up, enter the orphanage, I believe that all this memory that was like deep inside of him start to come, and he start to talk. I believe that was the moment that he felt more confident in what we are doing, because we took a lot of care, because we know that it could be very hard for him to come back to this place, the beginning of his childhood, because he had good memories uh, the time that he spent in the orphanage, not in the farm, but in the orphanage, it was so okay. They have like his brother, his companions, but he started to remember all the things that he was feeling at that time. But at the same time, it was tough. But at the same time, he felt confident. I believe it's a moment that we start to feel more confident each other, and then he could talk in a way more easy. And the family was they believe that we are doing a film, that we are respecting Aloysio's story. And I think the relationship between the family, Aloysio, and the crew came for in another way.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. We have already a couple questions popping up here. The first one is actually a comment, but I'll read it. It's from Steve Levy. I was particularly struck by the powerful imagery of the film. The statue of Jesus at the top of the orphanage stairs, the care used in fashioning the whips to be used to beat the children, and the image of losing the cattle when releasing the children. Well done.
Yeah.
I was struck by that too, and I think that I can ask you too. Like it was, you were telling a story, but also we see that there was this idea of showing images for that to be more impactful, right? You had children that represented the characters, and yeah, the way you guys put this together. How was the how did you put this together, and how was the what was the thought that you had doing that?
After being together with Aloysio, Argemiro, and also the José Alves, the number two family, during all these 3 years, I would say that all this memory that was like hide and deep in their memories, and they have the courage to share with us. I was in the middle of a decision that, in a way, I start to think with all this image that I heard one time, then another time, and then another time. So it started that it's not more their particular memories. It could be like everybody's memory. So how can I address this in the film, that this memory belongs to us, belongs to Brazil? It's not only Aloysio's memory, but we, in a way, Brazilian society, people know what's going on at that time, but people don't have the nerve or the courage to talk about Aloysio, Argemiro, José Alves families. They have the courage to tell the story. So I was not. I was not trying to do a fiction film because it's a documentary film, but in a way, we are trying to build like an atmosphere. So how was the time that those guys were children and lived their experience? After a lot of a lot of talk between the crew and also with them, because we try to be very precise in the way that we build this image, not trying to be like a historical film, but more like a poetical view, the way that memories came arise from Aloysio, from Argemiro, and from especially from José Alves family. So the decision, I might say, was those are the last image that we produce. We have of the film edit, and I understand that we need more.
Mm.
We need to create this atmosphere to create more impact, to show in a way the okay. Luis told a lot of times what happened with them. So let's try to build something that could, in a way, um, be more effective and be more uh, touch. We can touch people in a more interesting way, or in a more, maybe in a more honest way.
More of
And
a
then
punch in your face when you see actually a kid that could have been that kid almost 70, 90 years ago,
yeah,
right? It's yeah, definitely it's more of a punch in the face on our
uh,
faces watching that.
yeah,
Did
yeah.
you do casting to select the boy? I think it's only one boy, right? That
Yeah, we
is
have a group of boy, and then we have the
yeah.
Aloysio child. Actually, we had a decision to film that in a very, very small town in Minas Gerais, trying to find a place that looks like Campina de Monte Alegre 9 years ago. It's a small rural area, so those people, those children, they are like a small town. Their fathers and mother work in the fields, so they have like a similar experience like Aloysio and Argemiro at the time.
Mhm.
Um, the small farm that we film, it's like we believe that it was like Campina de Monte Alegre in the beginning of the last century. And then when we were there meeting the kids, I look for this boy, and he look at us, and it's like, oh, this is Aloysio, because it's the way he looks. He has like he has this melancholic eyes, and at the same time he's like a sweet smile, and it's look like Aloysio.
Exactly.
Everybody who was like the crew that we've been with Aloysio all this year, and then wow, it is Aloysio. We understood immediately that he was Aloysio, and then we did the shooting.
Yeah. All right.
I would like to, we have one of our Purdue University, which is one of our sponsors and collaborators of MOSTRA, and they have been wonderful every year. The professor, Dale Martins Assado, sent me a question, a statement and a question, and I would like to have that in because I thought it was extremely important. She said, Boy 23 is based on Sidney Aguilar's research on institutional racism in Brazil in the 1930s. The dominant class in Brazilian society condoned these developments, propagating the creation of racist institutions and policies for the benefit of the oppressors at the expense of the oppressed. How is this portrayal, here comes the question, how is this portrayal of Brazil in the 1930s analogous to contemporary Brazilian society? What relation does it bear specifically to police violence, the development of favelas, in contemporary government policy?
I believe we nowadays we can find all these traces of this political behavior in Brazilian society. The Brazilian elite, I would dare to say that they they didn't change. It's still the same, especially nowadays with this presidency that we have now in Brazil. With this, uh, it's tough. The things that we are experiencing nowadays in Brazil, it's in a way it's a lot of prejudice, a lot of institutional racism. Uh, of course, we don't have not more slavery, not in the way that we have, but we can find it nowadays. It's unbelievable that we can find it nowadays. For one side, for another side, we have the civil society in Brazil. It's much more organized. So we have a lot of NGO working for having human rights, more powerful, more soft power in a lot of questions. But still, this especially political and economic elite, they are more or less the same in his mindset.
Mentality.
In their mindset, they are more or less the same. I would say that.
It's unfortunate. Mhm.
Unfortunately,
She
yeah.
had another question that said, could you describe Sidney Aguilar's experience relating an academic work into the context of a film? Were there any significant findings in his research that were not included in the film?
Well, what I can say is the Sidney Aguilar research. It's an amazing research. I invite everybody to, if people has the opportunity to read the research. It's amazing. We can understand much more about the Brazilian history and all these hidden facts that we show in the film. All these historical events that people in Brazil choose to silence, not talking about, uh, but with a lot of different layers in the thesis. But when we have a film, I used to say that film has a problem. We have just 90 minutes to tell a story. A book, like a 300-page book or a 400-page book, it's much better to have layers, to have different paths for the story. So we have to took a lot of decision to make the film. I can say that in the research, in the book, in the thesis, there is more or less 70% of the thesis is history, 30% is characters. It's Aloysio, Argemiro. No, there is no Argemiro in the thesis. There is only José Alves and and a little bit of Campina de Monte Alegre. But think about before meeting Aloysio, after discovering Argemiro, because our production team discovered Argemiro, and after Reginaldo, number two son, decides to talk for the first time, because Reginaldo didn't talk to Sidney, but he talked to the film. We decided that the film should be 7% the characters and 30% history. So it's much better. I don't know if it's much better, but it was a decision that we did. But I believe that with this decision to put more emphasis in the characters, Aloysio, Argemiro, and number two, we can connect to you, the audience, with the story in a more effective way than the book, because the book, it's a thesis, it's an academic thesis, so it's a perfect academic thesis. Sidney won a lot of prizes with this thesis, but for the film, we do not make an academic film. We choose to make a film, a documentary film that connect or could connect a larger audience. So that's the decision. So I that's it. I believe that the thesis is more history and the film is more character.
With the characters, you guys were able to humanize the story too. Like people relate to people. I mean, you see someone's story and like that those old gentlemen that you found and like how their lives turned out, like what they did in their lives and how their childhood. It was very a strong one of the statements, which you guys actually used on the title of the movie was, yeah, my childhood was stolen from me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really powerful, really strong. We have another question here. Um, someone say Celeste is saying, I have a friend whose mom ran away from a fazenda, a farm owned by German people in Minas. Do you know if this was also happening in Minas Gerais?
It's interesting because what's happening now with this question of Celeste happened many times when we present and debate the film. Oh, I have a friend of mine, or oh, I have an uncle, or it's very common that things like that happen in Brazil during this process of the research to produce the film, and after presenting the film we heard very similar stories around Brazil. So if you have an elite, if you have farms, and then it's very similar, and then you have this slavery way of treating the workers, because it's not slavery, but it is slavery. You know, it's a very Brazilian way of having people working as a slave, but without slavery, institutional slavery in Brazil. So
Without
it
the
happened.
label slaves, right?
Yeah,
Like they were
yeah,
slaves, but they didn't know that they
yeah.
were slaves.
It happens a lot in the Amazon region, in Pará, especially in Pará. It happens a lot. Minas Gerais, it's a huge state, no? It's a huge region in Brazil. In São Paulo, that it doesn't happen only in Campina de Montalegre. There is other regions, especially close to the border with Paraguay. There is some farms that it's more or less the same that in Campina de Montalegre. It's common. It happened in Brazil at that time.
It has just different shapes. That reminds me of my childhood and how, for example, those girls who we called maids and worked at family homes, and
Hmm.
usually they were young and they were living with the family, and there was not a real like established working time. They were kind of available all the time, and that was normal, institutionalized, right? Like, and after some years of debate, discussion, and there was some norms coming up and to coming up to actually protect their rights. But it's, if we think in that way, it is some sort of uh, uh, maybe slavery is too strong, but it is like this non-regulated way of working. Um,
Yeah, I believe that if you don't pay, if you in many cases we have like physical punishment,
oh yeah,
it,
that's even worse, of course.
we can maybe we can name it as slavery.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's definitely the
uh,
case, especially with physical punishment. We have other questions here. I would like, from Deborah Maria Borba, I would like to know how hard was it to find these three boys, and if they tried to contact more of them. They, I mean, you and your crew.
yeah, I believe that we during the pre-production moment we try to discover or to find more boys that live that experience, but we are not able to do that. So Aloysio, Sidney did the bridge, né? Because Sidney met Aloysio at the beginning of his thesis, the research. Argemiro we discovered, and that was very interesting because we have this producer in the Brazilian nave trying to find Argemiros, né? in the plural, and then he really find 5 different Argemiro, and then one of them match with the Argemiro that came from Campina de Monte Alegre. And it was a very, very emotional moment for filmmaking. The moment that we met Argemiro for the first time, it's one of the beautiful thing of producing documentaries. Seeing when the memories arise, the moment that it was the first time that we met Argemiro. We are there starting to talk. The camera was rolling. Uh, and then I took my mobile phone and put this music from this Integralista. It's a ultra right group that in the past Argemiro used to sing this song with all these boys in the farm, and immediately think about this man immediately start to sing the music. Like 70 something years after he 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 leaves the farm, and Argemiro never talk about that with anybody. He never talked to his wife, he never talked to his son, but the music connect him immediately with all his memory. And that's something that there is no research for that. That is something that happened. We are there to witness that with the cameras, and so it's for me it's very emotional because it's it's something beautiful in producing film, and when we achieve moments like that, we we don't try to organize nothing and then something happened, something like that it's like, okay, I was there, I used to sing this song, and this is it's an absurd to think a small black child sing this kind of song. It's like a Nazi song, more or less like a Nazi song. And it's true. They did that. They used to do that in this farm.
One thing I was thinking, and I would like to know your perception. Do you think that Argemiro ended up having a different, because you see, like, of course, it brings him emotions, but he doesn't, as you mentioned, Aloysio has this anger inside, and Argemiro kind of, he talks about it. He laughs sometimes about it.
Mhm.
It's not really like, doesn't, it's not because he finds it funny, but it's like the way he deals with his past, right? Do you think there is anything to do with the fact that he was able to escape, and he ended up going to serve the Navy, and he, like, his life took a different turn, and whereas Aloysio kind of stood there. Do you
Yeah,
think that that could be one of the reasons why they tell the stories in a different, like, it gets them in a different way?
I believe so. I believe that escape was a key for his life because he took his his destiny in his own hand. He made a decision. So I want to be here. I don't want to be close to these guys that oppress me. And he did it. He paid the price. He was a homeless in São Paulo during like more or less 4 years before he decided to join the Navy. Um, and that's another important thing. He has military training. Military training, you are not it's very rare to have a military that allow his emotion to to arise. So he's like all the time he's like a tough guy. Although he's a musician, although he's a very funny guy, but he never talk about his past. He preferred to joke. He preferred to laugh all the time, to not touch what he worked so hard to forget. He worked a lot. You know, his wife, Dona Bené, she told that in the film. What was very surprising. Well, I believe he is right. Why to remember those moments? It's better to forget. That's the choice that Argemiro did. But you know, but at the same time, when we were there, uh, he was able to tell us
But
all the things.
it's an incredible part of our history that we did not know, that was hidden. And I think this is extremely important. In one of the, I was reading some of the interviews that you have given and everything. And in one of them, they mentioned that at the time, the local elite in Brazil not only admired the Nazis and the fascist regimes,
Mhm.
they subjected victims to racist experiment. I was flabbergasted, you know, when you think of things like that. But and it continues, it says, but one of them, boy 23, survived to tell the story.
Yeah.
How incredible that um, you know, could have this chance to be able to talk to him, to hear his experience. And in a sense, as painful as it must have been for him, as it is for us, it was very painful for me to see so many scenes on this film. And but to help him go through it and understand that we Brazilians need to understand that part of history too. It was incredible. Like
That's true. Yeah,
just
I believe that we are. I thanks Alois all the time, every time that I can, because it's again he has a brave man. He has the you know, he find a way to tell us the story, and we are able to build a film that could connect like Brazilians and out of Brazilians, out of Brazil, people that could understand a way that we were like that. In a way, we are like that. So we better talk about it so we can
yes.
change. Now, if you don't talk, we don't change.
And
We
they
are
did,
just able to change if you talk about, if you understand what we are.
if we don't talk, we perpetuate that kind of.
Exactly,
And I think
exactly,
that is, it's incredible. We cannot allow.
exactly.
Yeah.
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 I
We have another, oh, sorry, Ayani.
no, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we have another question here from Steve Levy. Is there a reason that you did not pursue the incongruity of the Reverend Mother at the orphanage taking an order from a benefactor to use children as a source of slave labor?
Well, this is a very sensitive point because, you know, uh, things that we discover, but we are not able to actually, and this is thing, before I just have to address something. Everything that are in the thesis and everything that are in the film, we can prove. We can prove it with documents. We understand that we can prove with documents. At that time, what happened in the orphanage, they used to do that. To I was I, to give children for some farms or for some uh, good people that will take care of those kids. They send to Rocha Miranda family like these 50 kids, these 50 boys. 4 years later, they come back. He ask for my 150 kids.
Oh, wow.
But at that time, there is a sort of suspicion in the orphanage that something's not going well in the farm. And then these 150, uh, they are not succeed to have in the orphanage. We don't know what happened because we don't have documents to prove what happened. We just know that they have asked for that. The only document that we have a letter asking for more kids, but we don't know what kind of decision happened. What happened because they don't send. they didn't send the 150 kids, but at the same time they don't move like nothing official to know what was going on in the farm with the previous 50 kids. So it's trick. It's not so clear what happened between the church, the orphanage, and the Rocha Miranda families.
They were a very like wealthy and influential family too. Like it's kind of, I can imagine, especially at that time, it is kind of hard to argue or
Very
question what they're
very
doing.
tough.
I mean,
They
I'm
they
not excusing them for not
mm,
doing, like, being diligent enough to know what happened
yeah.
to the kids, but we are talking about different time, probably different communication, and also um this feeling that they had to follow whatever they were asked to because it was a family, powerful family, which is very, very
And,
sad. It's
and
part
maybe
of the story,
also
very sad too.
they may also be receiving donations from these families, which
Yeah.
is very important for the life of the orphanage. So that's another thing you never, I don't know, but that is probably something that was in that. Um,
Yeah, not only donation. One of them, Luis Rocha Miranda, was a sort of that they have like there is the picture of Luis Rocha Miranda in the orphanage.
yeah.
One of the patrons of the orphanage was one of the brothers. So everything is connected. So it's not they have like arms in the political world, arms in the economical world, and in the church. So everything is connected. So stuff. I
Yeah.
I I, I couldn't believe that they have really powerful at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since we were talking about Russia Miranda's family, we have a question here from Brunella Martinelli. Did you try to get the Rocha Miranda family's perspective about all of this? In fact, actually, I think you mentioned at the end of the film that the nephew, right? One of the
Hmm.
nephews,
Hmm.
I forgot the main guy who ended up owning the farm, but he refused to give a statement or to say anything. Was that like, how was it? Did you guys actually get to talk to someone and they explained anything? How was it? Because I mean, that would have been important for them maybe to show their side.
Yes. From the beginning, the Rocha Miranda family is at that time was a big family. The Luis Rocha Miranda, they have like I believe 10, 10 sons. One of six in the first marriage, four in the second marriage, and we are talking about those second marriage sons.
Hmm.
So a lot of them are in Brazil, still in Brazil, a lot of descendants. When we did the film, like we don't have direct sons and grandsons and of these four guys here. We just have a nephew from not from the this side of the family, but we don't know how the farm comes to this man. When Sidney Aguilar start to produce the teas, start to produce the teas, this man was very upset. It's like 4 years before I met Sidney, and he started to make a lot of pressure in Sydney, make a lot of pressure in Unicamp, the university that Sydney was produced, but Sydney didn't back up. Continues to produce the teas. Try to talk to him. He didn't want to talk to Sydney because all the time he's tried to say that Finn was like that at that time. I have a document in my office that he sent a letter to me and my lawyer said this is perfect because the guy said things are like that at that time. Okay, so he assumes that everything that Sidney is writing and producing his thesis,
It's
it
true.
was what was happening.
Yeah.
um, he tried to stop the tease. He in one moment, just one moment, he tried to stop the film, like like talking, not really doing something effective
Going to the
from
court or anything, just reaching out
anything.
to you
No,
and
no, not exactly. No, no, never. And then when we are in the final phase of the shooting, I call him and say, no, you know me, I'm Belisario. You send me a document trying to stop the film. We didn't stop the film. I would like you to invite to talk about your experience, what you heard from your uncles, what you heard about the story. Because the thing is, this man was born in 1940 something, so he didn't live all this thing that happened in the 30s. He's not an old man. He's like nowadays he has like 70, something like that. So he didn't live the during the 30s with his the man four uncles of him.
mhm.
So I tried to connect. I tried to have his perspective, but he denied to talk.
And after the movie was released, nothing.
Silence.
Okay, yeah.
We did a good work that we have the thesis. The thesis was embraced by Unicamp. Unicamp, and not only Unicamp, CAPS. The CAPS is the most prestigious academic prize in Brazil. Sidney won CAPS prize. Sidney won another very important prize in history. So like it's done. So I believe that someone had should talk to this man that don't try to process, don't try to put them in a trial because
There's
maybe
no room for that.
maybe it won't work.
Mhm. We have another question here, and actually, I think you responded at least partially. Did anyone else reach out with similar stories after the document premiered? Yeah, you mentioned that, right? That people
Yeah, a
left
lot
you
of very simple. I just remember one story. We have this moment in the film that I believe it was number two widow that she talked about that the number two was in the house playing with the kids, and after that we show a picture with a black child with a white child like you using this girl like a horse. When we after the film, it's a very tough image.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember this photo because
Uh,
it's really
in one of our presentation, one black lady, a very old black lady, come to me and told, "Now I understand what my father told to me that he was like brinquedo." How we can translate
toy,
brinquedo?
like a toy.
He was he was he was a toy in the family that he lived all his childhood. The father used to tell her, "I was a toy. I was a toy." She never understand that. And then when he watched the film and then he saw this image, then now I could understand because it was a distant farm too, where his father uh, spent his childhood. I was a toy. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's really sad.
You know,
Uh,
I just
go
have
ahead.
a question because I think for maybe a few people who have not yet seen the film, because some people didn't have time to see it, maybe, and tell us about what started this whole thing, the brick with the swastika.
Hmm.
To
That
me,
that is that the beginning was like that. It's the think about a history professor in in a classroom, and then someone, a kid, told him that, oh, there is this kind of swastika. I have bricks in my family farm with this swastika. Sidney went there, and then that when we met Sidney for the first time, when this story came to the press. But it's much more than only a swastika in a brick, and this is for us. It's not something that
Which is already a lot, by the way.
it's sort of, yes, but you know, it's much more, because
Yeah.
if we stay like you know, only focus on the swastika, only focus on this Nazi presence in Brazil, because there were at that time a very strong Nazi presence in Brazil. But the story that Sidney was able to discover and to research, it was much more important, I believe, um, and interesting than just the swastika bricks.
Yeah, for sure. We have another question here, and it would be interesting to hear from you. What was the most beautiful moment you remember as making this film?
I believe that we have two very touching moments. One of it was walking with Aloysio in the middle of the orphanage. It was very emotional. It was like it's crazy because we felt the air getting more, you know, strange, because it's like a, a lot of things start to come up with Aloysio's mind, and then we felt that everybody. We have a small crew, but everybody was like, something's going on, and that was amazing, because from that moment on, we changed our relationship. A lot of things came out, and Aloysio started to talk, and then we have a lot of things. Another one I told here was this moment that I present the music, the Nazi music to Argemiro, and um, he was able to remember everything and start to talk, and it's
Sing along. Yeah.
I love this thing, that when things happen when you are producing a documentary.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, like surprises almost every time you're talking to people, and as you mentioned, like you're able to make them bring like put out their emotions and memories. We have another question here. Again, I think you answered partially. The footage in black and white, was some of it taken from our archival material, or did you also have to script and film independently? You mentioned that the boys, you actually thought about it and had all the footage included after the film was edited, but there is also some material from archives, right, that you used.
We have like our image researcher. He's an amazing guy. I love this image that he was able to find in United States, when there is this. I believe it's like I don't know. It's like a reportage, something like that, about Getúlio Vargas. It's amazing how the Americans think about Getúlio Vargas, the Brazilian president at the time, and that was a new image in Brazil. Nobody, I believe, other films in Brazil, they never present this extract that we present in Menino, in Boy 23. Another image that I believe that it was interesting. It was this fiction film that were produced in Brazilian during the 30s. Then we have like a few moments of the Brazilian movie at the time where we can, it's clear that we can show how the racism is everywhere, even in the Brazilian filming in the 30s and the 40s. And it it took time to find this image, and I believe that it's one of the things that it's different from the tease that that's only for the film, that in a way can show all the movements and all the how the society we are talking about artists, we are talking about filmmakers, but they are elite, that so they think about those people from the elite, so they it's stuff and it's there. We just have to watch the film to see what what we're talking about.
Yeah. We have a last interesting question here. How are participants compensated for participating in a in documentaries? Were you able, for example, to provide financial compensation for to Aloysio or other boys for participating? How does that work? Like in a, I think you can talk about this movie specifically, but also like in general with documentaries.
I used to say that we have to have, like, independence when we are talking in documentary, and of course uh, I wouldn't say that we have like a financial compensation, but but first of all, just like it's something that Alois was able to told us when we present the film for him, but also his son was able to told. But telling us the the story was like a sort of getting free from a burden in his shoulders, and he was able to tell. He was able to breathe differently after he watched the film, first of all, and then we decide after the film was done not to compensate, because I believe that the Brazilian state has to compensate this boy. We are not able to compensate, but at the time we are able to give a gift to him, a gift to him in money, but at the same time we invite him a lot of time, not him, but his daughter and his son, to come over with us to this presentation and have his story told. Uh, so this is something very difficult to do, because we try to have this independence in relationship with these characters, with these people. But we understood that we have like the the, the possibility to give them a gift, but not a compensation. We are not able to compensate. I believe that only the Brazilian state could compensate them for these 10 years working as slaves in this farm.
It's something similar to journalism, right? Like you don't want to have problems with have like true answers or anybody questioning later on if you really had that story because you paid somebody for that. Like it's
Yeah.
part of the unbiased and yeah, the transparency and all that. But it's yeah, no, it's
Imaginable price to compensate anyone for something like that.
for
It is
sure.
part of their lives, and it is something, it is, like you said, just a gift, you know, a gift of the film, or so is something, because to have robbed these kids of their childhood, uh, there's nothing that can compensate for that.
Even any money, any compensation from the state, right? Even that, I mean, would help him, probably his family, but it wouldn't really
Yeah.
do a lot
Yeah.
to
Two
rebuild what he
things.
lost.
There is two actions going on in Brazil in this moment. One of them is change.
Mm.
The Rocha Miranda, because Rocha Miranda is the name of a neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro.
Ah. Mm.
I don't know if you know that, but there is a neighborhood like Ipanema there is a neighborhood called Rocha Miranda in Rio de Janeiro. So there is an action trying to change the name Rocha Miranda of this neighborhood because after the film was released, people in the neighborhood is trying to change the name of the neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
And also in Campina de Monte Alegre, there is this street with the name of Rocha Miranda Avenue. They are trying to change the name. And the third thing is the Organization of Lawyers of Brazil, OAB, uh, is trying to build an action against the Brazilian government to compensate the boys. There are more or less 3 years that they are doing that because OAB, we have a relationship with the OAB. They use the film when they have like they try to mobilize people about this institutional racism in Brazil. The first thing that they do is, Belisario, can I show the film? Yes, you can. So they show the film, but at the same time, it's all the time they have a work in this institutional racism in Brazil. But at the same time, they are trying to build a case for the boys. They know that it can change, like it can last like 20 years, but they are doing. They start doing. So these three things are going on in Brazil at that time.
Oh, that's really interesting, and it's for you. I can imagine it's good to see this some outcome from that, right? Like,
It's amazing. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, to see that.
yeah, great. So it looks like we don't have further questions from our audience. I would just like to thank you again, Belisario, for being here
Thank
with
you.
us. It's I know we know it's late in Brazil now, and yeah, so thank you so much. And again, all the messages we got here were like, congratulations, great movies, great and sad, beautiful documentary. So yeah, everybody giving compliments, and it is an amazing documentary. Thank you so much.
I,
Thank you. Thank you again for the
well,
invitation.
I cannot say, there are no words to say thank you for you to be here with
Thank you.
us and to be on this session and discuss such an incredible movie, because it is really marvelous work work of art and work of many historical work. And thank you, Mariana, so much for moderating this for us. We really appreciate it. I also want to thank our sponsors, because without the sponsors, we cannot do any of this. And I also want to remind our audience that we have other things that help us bring these movies and this festival, which are, we have a silent auction with many items that were donated, and we want to thank the donors. Go there and take a look, see if you find something that you like. Also, for all those who do some donations on the website, over 10,000, $10,000. I wish it was 10,000, $10, that there will be a raffle at the end. Very good raffle for all those who donated in our website. And watch for that. It is all explained on the website, and help us out. So next year we can bring that, and maybe next year we can bring again our directors in person, as we really like to do that. But thank you so much, Belisario, for being with us. This was unbelievable, a wonderful session for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.